Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wellness from Scratch. I'm your host, Marissa Jackson. Today we're kicking off the first episode of our new series, From Struggle to Strength, where we dive into overcoming life's challenges to rebuild resilience and well-being. In today's episode, we'll be talking with Dr. Santina Wheat, a family practitioner who specializes in burnout recovery. She'll be sharing her expertise on how to recognize signs of burnout and some practical self-care strategies that can help you stop burnout in the first place. But before we delve into our discussion with Dr. Wheat, let's get started by understanding what burnout truly entails and how it manifests in our lives. So right here, I have what burnout is, and it basically says that burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. It's more than just occasional stress. It's a chronic condition that significantly impacts your life. Recent studies reveal that a staggering 77% of workers have experienced burnout, with 67% of those people believing that the pandemic has made it much worse. Burnout is a multifaceted syndrome that affects your physical health, mental well-being, and your overall quality of life. I'm so excited to be joined with Dr. Santina Wheat, an esteemed family medical practitioner. So whether you're feeling the weight of burnout yourself or want to support someone who is, this episode is packed with valuable information to guide you towards a happier, more balanced life. Let's dive into our conversation with Dr. Santina Wheat.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so happy to be here.
And we're so happy to have you. So I guess we can start with tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I am a family physician and I also am a wife and a mom. And so, all of those things together makes for a very busy person. And I am someone that got to the point where I considered leaving my career because I was facing so much burnout. And that was also in the midst of grief after losing my mom and trying to figure out how to stay well while doing all of the things that were going on in my life. And after we were really hit by the pandemic, I had to make a decision of how I was going to pull myself out of this and had to really figure out how to get myself there. And so I found some strategies that worked really well and became a career and life coach because I wanted to help other people be able to find those strategies too, so that they could find more joy, balance, and purpose within their own lives, because we all work so hard and I want to make sure that we're living our best lives possible.
Absolutely. You don't know what you don't know. Burnout is such a widespread issue, especially within healthcare. Can you share what burnout felt like for you personally and how you recognized it was time to change?
Absolutely. And I will start by saying that, particularly as a physician, that comes with it a little bit of I'll just say a type A and perfectionist personality, right? And so that also meant just trying to be really hard on myself to make sure that everything was going well. I think lots of people can relate to that. And for those reasons, I expected that I was going to be working really hard, potentially be tired, and just sort of feel like that was part of life. And so it actually took a long time for me to understand that I really was in the midst of burnout. I just thought I was tired. I just thought I was cranky. I just thought that I was in the midst of having little kids. But then I started to recognize that there were people that were around me in similar situations that were just happier than I was. And I just was like, oh, I'm just not a happy person. And that didn't need to be the case. I realized that if I was going to continue to do what I was doing, if I was going to continue to show up for my kids, I had to show up for them differently. And that was a lot of what it was for me. I needed my kids to want to be around me, to have fun with them, and to show them that they could be happy even in really important and stressful jobs. And so that was a big piece of the trigger for me to start really working on myself and make a change.
That is very moving. And so I am in when we were speaking before here, you mentioned living on the edge of a cliff during grief therapy. That's such a vivid metaphor. What shifted your life to help you step back from that ledge?
Yeah. So that was a really interesting time for me. So it was about a year after my mom had died, and I finally went into acknowledging that I needed help, that I needed to go to grief therapy. I had been very focused on my children first and made sure my daughter got grief therapy after my mom died. But I knew that I wasn't okay. I knew that it wasn't right. And so I went to therapy and I said to my therapist, I feel like I'm living on the edge of a cliff and I'm either going to fall off and tumble down or I'm going to be okay. And she asked me, well, what does that look like? And my answer was just, I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. And so I didn't expect to say that, but saying it out loud sort of solidified the need to do something different. And it took a while, but I recognized that there were steps that I could take for myself to feel better. Some of that was sleeping, which is a very basic and simple one, but one that, especially as a mom of young kids, was easy to let go of.
So important.
It's so important. For me, one of them was exercise. A lot of my grief was frustration with my mom that she didn't take care of her health. And so I felt like I really needed to take care of my health to be around for my kids. And so exercise really became a way for me to, one, be healthy, but also to just get rid of the stress. Sometimes that just connecting with movement can help you get rid of the stress. And then this one took longer, but we mentioned self-compassion earlier, and really leading into gratitude was the other one that really helped. And that was not just self-gratitude. There was some of that. I had to work on my gratitude to myself, or sometimes it was just showing up or doing a little thing. It was being grateful for the little things. But around the same time that I had this therapy, a colleague of mine who I had previously been a supervisor for sent me a message and just said, I just want to thank you for modeling what it means to really care about an organization, but be unhappy with things that were going on. And I don't think she could have known it, but it was something that I just needed that day. It was just something that was meaningful. And when I realized the impact that a tiny little piece of gratitude could have on me, I started using that around others, and it changed my environment. It changed how I interacted with people, and it changed them because then they felt like that was a more important part of our community. And so I think that even though those are just three little things, those three little things, sleep, for me, working out, and then just gratitude, were huge in shifting me out of the space of burnout.
I couldn't agree more. I absolutely, when I changed my sleeping habits, and I started looking at what I could be thankful for instead of always being worried about what was bothering me, my life took a dramatic change for the better. It's always, yeah, yeah. That's so great and beautiful. I really love that. But many listeners may feel stuck and overwhelmed, but don't know where to begin. What's one small practical step they could take today to rediscover their purpose?
Yeah, so I really love a framework that allows you to rediscover your purpose. And I discovered this in an article written by Margie Worrell in Forbes magazine several years ago. And it's really just a set of 4 reflection questions. And it really lets you dig deep into who you are and what you're doing. And those questions are really meaningful to help you identify what your purpose is and what your fulfillment, what things can help you feel fulfilled is the better way to say it. Those questions are: what makes you come alive? What are your innate strengths? Where do you add the greatest value? And how will you measure your life? And it's only 4 questions, but they're really deep and they're really meaningful. And I recommend everyone that I work with spend some time to sit down and really dig deep into those questions because it's a starting point. And I use that to help create a personal mission. And with that personal mission, it allows you to really decide, is this thing that I'm working on the right thing for me? Is this thing that I'm working on the right decision or something that I should say no to? And it just gives you sort of a guiding principle of where to go. And if you don't have that, it's just so easy to feel overwhelmed by all of the things that other people are pulling you for. This person says you have to do this for your child, or you have to do this for work, or you have to do this for whatever. But if you don't have a guiding post to hold that to, then it becomes very easy to, I don't want to say be taken advantage of, but it feels like that at some points, but it helps you really determine what is right for you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Okay. What are some common signs of burnout that people might overlook, like until it's too late?
Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. So I'll start by saying there are 12 stages of burnout, and I totally did not acknowledge this at the beginning. And the ones that I focus on are actually the earlier ones because you can intervene a little bit more quickly. One of them, unfortunately, is fatigue. You might just feel tired at all times. And sometimes that feels like, well, it's just because I have a child or just because I work really hard. But if you're getting rest and or a good sign is if you come back from vacation and you still feel exhausted, then that is a good sign that you might be having burnout. Another one is just being snippy with people. Sometimes you just find yourself getting short, and that could be your loved ones. That could be the people that you're working with. And you might just notice that you're just a crankier person to be around. And nobody really wants to show up as cranky for everyone around them. And that is a good sign that there might be steps that you can take to pull back from burnout. Another one is just sort of having dread of feeling like you're just not doing what you had hoped to do. You're not making a difference where you want to be, just sort of feeling like everything that you do isn't worthwhile. And all three of those things are very frustrating and can be written off for something else, but they all are actually signs of burnout. And then lastly, I'll say you can even start to feel physical symptoms I know I get it in my shoulders. I start to get tense and tight up here. And those days when that doesn't go away, where I can't massage it out or use a heating pad and it just stays there. Or when you have really bad stomach ache, sometimes people feel it there because we know that our gut and our brain are connected and that we feel our emotions there. Or you might just have full body aches. You can just feel those physical symptoms. Of course, you want to make sure there's nothing physically wrong with you, but our stress and our overwhelm are really powerful and can really impact the entire way that we're feeling. And so those are all symptoms that you might have burnout and should start to intervene so that you can feel better.
Definitely felt a few of those symptoms that you have listed before. Most definitely. I think we all have experienced burnout at one point or another, especially becoming adults and everything
Yes.
in life. So, how can someone in a high stress job like healthcare create balance without feeling guilty for taking time for themselves?
So I think this is a really interesting one because it sounds a little bit silly, but if you slow down and you create intentional time for yourself, you will actually show up better at your job every day. And so the truth is, if you take time for yourself, then you actually are going to do a better job in your career. And that just feels backwards. We think that we're supposed to just keep pushing and work harder. And that's what I believed, but it's just not correct. When you even can take 5 minutes and take a step back and sit with yourself or do something that allows you to be creative, or my favorite, to go walk in nature. Any of those things that are really time for you to refill your cup allows you to show up better. And so I like to tell the people that I work with, both my learners, my patients, and my clients, I like to tell them that you can't pour from an empty cup and you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. And so it is not selfish to do those self-care things. It is really a necessity. You have to prioritize yourself in order to be able to do those things.
So, you mentioned coaching as a game changer for you. What is it about coaching that it is so transformative compared to the other methods?
Absolutely. So I think the first thing to start with is sometimes people will be like, well, isn't that therapy? Why aren't you going to a therapist? And I think that there's a place for both. So I have had a therapist and a coach, and I think that both are really important. And one of the important things is about coaching is that it looks to the future. Coaching allows you to have someone support you in the empowerment of growing to be the person that you want to be in the future, whether that's life or career, health, whatever it is you're looking at. I happen to do career and life because I think that they are so intertwined, that you really need to be looking at both to be happy in both. And so in coaching, help our clients know that they have all of the tools already inside of them, and that they're able to, sometimes it's a mindset shift, sometimes it's trying something different, but letting them know that they really are empowered to be who they want to be and continue on their journey to live the best life possible. So really about looking to the future and growing as much as you want to along that way.
For listeners who might not have access to coaching or therapy, are there any self-guided tools or strategies they can use to work through burnout?
I think absolutely, but I think that you can start with a lot of different things. The first tool that I would recommend is journaling. And you might sit here and go, I hate to journal. I hate to write. I threw out every diary I ever had, and that's who I was. I never really understood it. But there's different ways to think about this. And so like using technology was a game changer for me. So one of the easiest things that you can do is start by gratitude journaling. And that might be recording 3 things that you're grateful for at the beginning of the day or the end of the day. Something that simple is a powerful tool to move you out of burnout. Similarly, if you take those 4 questions that I just mentioned and identify that what your mission is, what your personal mission and purpose is, you can help you move out of burnout because you'll have a framework with which to measure the decisions that you're making. And then the last is to really think about sort of the areas of focus. And so many coaches use a tool called the life wheel, or you could use a career wheel if you're looking at your career, and it helps you identify what is going well in your life, what is not going well in your life or your career, and identify where the areas of focus are that you want to use. And so I have tried to put this together for clients of mine in a series of self-directed modules called Burnout to Balanced, where they're able to identify their own purpose, their own mission, sort of walking through additional prompts to help them get there. And then also just create a plan for how am I going to have additional areas of joy in my life. That might be by removing some of the clutter. That might be identifying where the areas of need or flexibility in your life, identifying what activities bring you joy and give you energy and which ones actually drain your energy, even if you're important, and thinking about how to pull those along in your calendar. And so those are all things that I walk through within this because I think that when you do all of that, you can then create goals of, okay, this is how I'm going to improve and move to more joy at the end.
Your focus on belonging, community, and improving access. How do these elements play a role in combating burnout and fostering joy?
Absolutely. So I'll start by saying a lot of the research that I did in my work as an academic physician has had to do with gender bias and some of the challenges that women in particular face when being in medicine. And we know that when you're in a group that is being discriminated upon or that has bias against it, that it makes every step harder and that can contribute to burnout. It doesn't always, but it can. And so I think that by looking at how do we make all of our spaces more inclusive? How do we make it so that there's less bias? How do we make it so that there's less discrimination? Means that everybody can show up as their best selves and their authentic selves. I really think that by changing the systems and how they're working is one of the most important ways to decrease burnout. And so all of that goes hand in hand for me. So by decreasing the bias, decreasing the discrimination, we can be in systems that we can find more joy in because we're able to be our authentic self.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Great. So, what's one lesson you've learned from your journey that you wish more people knew or understood about finding fulfillment in life and work?
Absolutely. So I think that the biggest lesson that I have learned, or one of the biggest lessons I should say, is that Your 10-year plan with that dream job or that dream lifestyle is not necessarily going to deliver joy to you. That is a lot of just, if you will, keeping up with the Joneses or trying to have that persona that you think that you need. But that doesn't mean that that's where you're going to be joy. Finding joy really is a pathway and it's work. It requires some effort into it. It doesn't just fall into your lap. And I really did believe that once I got the title, once I got the position, that I would just be happy because I would have all the things that I thought I needed. And I think that we know that to have the weight that we want or to run that marathon or whatever our goal is, that we have to work for those things and we have to have a plan to get there. But the truth is, joy is the same way. You really do have to have intentionality and thought behind making your life have more joy in it, to have more balance in it. It doesn't just fall on your lap. You really do have to think it through and have a plan to get there.
I totally agree with that. You have to have a plan or like a guiding star to go
Yes.
towards, or you're just like in a dark room and you don't know which way to go.
Then it would just be luck and maybe it'll work. But for most of us, we need to have an effort to get there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's the same like with starting the show. You have to have a plan and you have to
Exactly.
be organized and you have to, put everything together. And with any good thing in life, you have to put the work, the effort into it in order to make it beautiful. Is there anything else you'd like to share that we didn't cover today?
I think that it's just important to remember that today is your best day to consider joy. Don't put it off. Really, it is time to take care of yourself and to make sure that you are living your best life. Life is really too short to put that off because you want to show up as your best self.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with all of us. We're really grateful and we love hearing from people like you and learning about how we can better ourselves every day, because it only takes one small step to start a change for the better in your life. And, even just one little thing can make a huge difference in your life. And that's what we're all about here. If today's conversation has resonated with you and you'd like to learn more about Dr. Santina Wheat's program, please feel free to look at her website or check out her Instagram. The links are down in the description below. Now that we've gained valuable insight from Dr. Wheat, let's take a closer look at what burnout is and identify the 12 key signs to watch out for. Here it says that burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs if you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demand. Being able to recognize the 12 signs of burnout is crucial for taking proactive steps towards recovery. So here are the 12 signs of burnout. So the first sign could be chronic fatigue or exhaustion. Just feeling exhausted all the time, even after you've rested. A couple of strategies to combat this would be to engage in physical activity on a regular basis. Engaging in physical activity can reduce stress and improve energy levels. Another one could be getting adequate sleep. Getting the right amount of sleep is so important for a healthy life. I mean, that's just essential. Prioritizing quality sleep restores well-being and it helps protect your health. The second one I have for you would be reduced productivity. You're just not getting enough done. Like you're just not getting as much done as you normally can. You're feeling just like you've burnt the candle at both ends. Strategies to combat this would be to set achievable goals. By doing that, you break tasks into manageable portions so you don't feel overwhelmed. And time management. As someone with ADHD, time management can be really hard. So one thing I like to do is set timers. And even if I don't want to, when the timer goes off, I have to listen to it, because if I don't do it right then when the timer goes off, I know I'm not going to do it. And yeah, so that's one way I, handle my time management as someone who's neurodivergent. And yeah, like breaking things up into manageable pieces is so much easier than trying to take 10 steps, just one little bit at a time. And you get there so much sooner, and I think you can enjoy the journey. like a lot more that way too. The third one I have here is going to be detachment and isolation. So you're just not feeling connected to people. You feel there's some type of gap, like there's just, something missing. You could also feel like indifferent, like you just don't care. Ways you could try and combat this would be to try and connect with friends, family, a support group to share your experiences and reduce the feeling of isolation. I could totally agree with that. Like, I wouldn't say, I mean, I could have been burnt out. Having a new baby is a lot of work. And I definitely think that being a new mom and everything is really hard and it's definitely amazing. But, it's nice to be able to come on YouTube, and I have this community now of you amazing, beautiful people who are here with me. And, we seem to all share, similar experiences. We're all trying to just be better. And I think that's so awesome. And that, has helped me to feel less detached and isolated, because when you're hanging out with a baby that can't talk at all, you love them, but that's not a conversation. You're not having conversations for all day till, your partner gets home. And then at that, you're still talking to the same person every day. You can feel really alone in that. And yeah, it's just nice to feel like I have a community. I love you guys. Another way you could try and help if, reaching out to people or being a part of a community isn't helping or working, you could try to seek professional help with a therapist or a counselor to deal with, people who are not feeling so great. And in therapy, you can always address those feelings in a safe place, but just always make sure that you pick the right therapist, because, therapy is kind of, in a way, in my opinion, therapy in a way is kind of like dating. You have to find the right person that fits with you. Not every therapist is going to fit into your life, into, how you want to work on yourself. So, you might not get it right with the first therapist or the second one or the third, but you shouldn't stay with a therapist just because you think, oh, they're a therapist and they know what they're doing. That isn't always the case. I have personal experience with that. Maybe I'll share that at a later date and time. But yeah, don't always just pick the first one because if that's, what is accessible to you, then, use what you have accessibility to. But if you have the option to, you know, seek out the best person for you, I mean, why wouldn't you, Your mental health and well-being is the foundation of your entire existence. So I think it's like the most important thing ever. Oh, yeah. The fourth tip I have for you is increased cynicism. So you're just feeling negative, pessimistic. You're feeling extremely critical towards others, judgmental. This could be towards many different things: work, life, friends. It could pop up anywhere. Ways to combat this would be to start implementing being mindful and taking a moment to stop and try to at least be in your body. I know that can be hard even for me. I don't know how to relax. You can engage in things like being mindful, journaling, or doing meditation or yoga, or even listening to some lo-fi music on YouTube and just sitting there and enjoying that moment. Being mindful can take so many different forms. Another strategy to combat being cynical would be to try and reframe the way you think. Try and see is there another way? Is there another angle that I could look at this situation from? Try and challenge your negative thoughts and focus on the aspects of your life that do fulfill you. The fifth one would be physical symptoms. This can include things like headaches, muscle tension, digestive issues. Ways to combat physical symptoms would be to seek medical, professional help from a doctor to try to find out if there are any underlying causes to what's going on. It would be to try to live a healthy lifestyle, be active, eat whole foods. The sixth sign I have for you here is mood swings and irritability. This means you can become easily frustrated or angry at very small things. You know that phrase, making a mountain out of a molehill? Yeah. And the ways you could try and combat that would be to practice stress relieving techniques such as yoga or deep breathing. Yeah. And also taking regular breaks from work to relieve any frustration you might be feeling or tension. And the seventh sign I have for you is having trouble sleeping. And this is pretty explanatory. It's having difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep. And ways you could try and prevent this would be set an alarm on your phone, and when it goes off, for the most part, because life happens and you can't stick to something every day forever, that's just not reasonable. When you set that alarm, try to go to bed within that time frame, or the alarm goes off and then you set it for another 30 minutes. So then you give yourself like, okay, that was your reminder. Like it's getting time to settle down. And at least then you could go into a routine, or you could even set the alarm like a little bit earlier. And then when that alarm goes off, you could start that routine. Maybe you start settling down, get in the shower, whatever it is, put the kids to bed, and it could create like a domino effect. And the next one would be that if you're not getting a good amount of sleep, you probably shouldn't be consuming any stimulants like coffee or energy drinks or anything like that, because that will just make it worse. But yeah. Now, the eighth sign of burnout that I have for you is lack of motivation. You just can sense a significant decrease in your happiness or motivation to do the things you like. You've lost your drive. And one way you could try to tackle a lack of motivation would be looking at the different areas in your life and find out what is working and what is not working. And once you find that out, you have to take action in changing those things that are not working in your life anymore. And with that, realign how you're living your life with the things that are working and that are filling your cup up, and move towards those goals, because in life, we don't have to stay the same forever. And in a way, we do get to shift the goalpost because we're always evolving. So, I mean, yeah, we're always going to be probably having different goals every so often. Another way you could try and have more motivation would be to engage in new activities and try to learn something that you've never tried before. That's always something that I think it will help grow your neuroplasticity, and that's always beautiful for growth. The ninth sign is that you are neglecting your personal needs. And, you're not showering when you're supposed to. You're ignoring your self-care. You're not eating right. You're not taking care of yourself. One way to combat this would be to dedicate time for self-care. Make that a priority. Another one would be healthy boundaries. Make sure that you're saying no to things that are impeding on your self-care. Just say no to things that you don't have to do, and take the time back for yourself. The 11th sign I have is one that I actually never heard of until I did this episode and looked deeper into the signs of burnout. And I'm going to try to read it here because please don't hate me. I have dyslexia. It's called depersonalization. It's called depersonalization. And this means that you are basically viewing people, including yourself, as objects or the sources of your problem. So, yeah, everyone is the problem. If you start thinking that everyone is the problem, then I think that is a moment to take a step back and say, whoa, hold on. One way you could try and combat this would be to try and exercise empathy. This would mean engaging in activities that foster connection with other people. So you want to try and connect with others. And then another way would be to seek professional help and talk about it in therapy. If you made it to this portion of the episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening, and I just appreciate each and every one of you so much. And I hope you're getting value from this and learning how to take care of yourself a little better. And the last sign of burnout that I have for you today would be that you are experiencing frequent illness. This means having a lower immune system and you might get frequent cold. The best way to combat a lowered immunity would be to try and maintain a healthy diet, exercise regularly, and ensure adequate rest. And also it would be to have a medical evaluation and consult with healthcare providers to address the reoccurring issues. By identifying these signs and implementing these targeted strategies, you can take proactive steps towards overcoming burnout and enhancing your overall well-being. Let me know down in the comments below which strategies you plan to implement into your life in order to prevent burnout. As we conclude this episode, I want to remind you that From Struggle to Strength will continue every other week, bringing you insightful discussions and practical tips on how to enhance your well-being. If you guys would like to further support your journey, think about joining my monthly newsletter. Each edition is filled with expert tips, actionable strategies, and inspiration to help you thrive. As a token of appreciation, new subscribers will receive my complimentary ebook, A Guide to Self-Love, which is designed to assess your current well-being and what areas of your life you might want to work on, and ways you can start improving today. Remember, taking small, consistent steps can lead to significant positive change in your life. Stay committed to your well-being, and together we'll all continue to grow from struggle to strength. Thank you for joining me, Marissa Jackson, on this journey. Until next time, take care, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.